Welcome back to Corporate Nitro.
Just sit right back in your hair and tail of cars beat down and torn from fields and shelves and long lost shops or broken roads of war. With glowing gas electric to their rusted, wrecked and rare. Corporate Nitro will fix them with parts we fill with care. No shiny kits or brand new parts, just grit and grease we grind to bring these relics back to life the cheapest we can find. Your game for vintage rides and seeing wrecks restored. Subscribe and join the Nitro crew for Aussies we've adored. For Aussies we've adored.
Maverick Blackout 1/5 scale 4-wheel drive monster truck. Corporate Nitro, or corporate gas, as I should say. We just did a deal, $700 for 3 gas cars, 2 buggies and a monster truck. That's $460 US. It's such an epic deal, and a whole box of e-revo parts as well. I have to show you this. So we've got a HPI Baja 5B on top. It's just missing the bodywork. Underneath it, we've got a Roven 5B buggy clone. That one's got an issue. It's got the radio is not responding, so we'll have to look into that. The gentleman went to start the Baja, the HPI one, and the rope snapped off the little handle here. So we're gonna have to see if we can fix that rope. And then we've got a Maverick monster truck, Blackout MT, which is very rare. Just a little bit of damage on the back to the body, but other than that, the thing looks amazing. $1,200 in Australia, brand new for that monster truck. It's probably slow, but being so rare, I'd like to get my hands on it. Let's get these home. Right, Blackout MT. These come in 2 variations. There's a 30 and a 32. I don't know which one we've got. Whoa, look at the heat. Full of grass and crap. This one's still got the cover on it, which is good. Massive steering servo. Alright, so this one does have a receiver and a receiver pack. So we're going to take this out and test how it is. Can't believe the guy tried to start it up and just expected this to work, even though he hasn't maintained it at all. He did tell me that there's no battery cover. There's no cover here. So I don't know how he drove it. I don't know how he trusts the battery to stay in there if there's no cover. Okay, NIMH receiver battery pack 6 volt. So we're going to have to give that a charge. Probably completely dead. So we've just made an observation that this is the first model that came out in 2011. And it's the 2-bolt 30cc engine. And the way we know that is because if you look at the bottom here, we've got no bolts here. So that means there's only going to be a bolt there and the opposite side. So it's a 2-bolt 30cc engine. The other reason we can tell is because it actually says 30 just there. So that's 2 observations that we've made. Blackout MT, I'm testing the health of the receiver pack. So because I don't know any history about this battery or when the car was purchased, I don't really know how old this battery is. So what I do is I put it on an NIMH discharge charge cycle. So 1800 milliamps came out of the battery and then 2357 milliamps went back into it. So that tells me that the battery wasn't fully charged, but pretty close. And if 2357 went back in and the battery's capacity is 2500, that tells me that the battery should be really good. So it should be enough to drive a 1/5 scale car. Will it actually? We don't know yet, but it's looking promising. Hpi Maverick Blackout MT. We've plugged in a battery and we've put some batteries in this guy as well. They don't really seem to match. This one says Your Glee something, but then this one is Fly Sky. Anyway, they so we've got dual steering servos. I think it's 10 kilos each. And we've got throttle action. Forward, 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 forward. Where's the hammer? There it is, the hammer. And then the problem is the brakes. I mean, the brakes seem to be working, but if I put the brakes on, I can still push the truck, which seems to be typical of my purchase. No, none of the brakes work. Okay, throttle. Not much brakes. Choke on, 2 pulls. Alright, where is the choke? We've got no choke lever. Maybe we've got no lever. So the choke lever is below the fuel inlet. That's the choke lever. So if we turn that, that's choke on. So 2 pulls with the choke on. And then we'll take the choke off. Okay, now it should start. Whoa, did you see that? Fuel just came out and went all over the car. All over the top. Why is the fuel coming out? Is the primer bulb busted? Doesn't sound good. I mean, I saw the guy start this one up. What's the problem? Does it need a bit of throttle? Do we need to lean out the low speed needle, maybe? So high is closest to the filter. Half. Ooh, 1/2 1/4. That's no good. 1/2, 1 1/4. And the low, 1/2, 1. Half. Well, the low was very rich. Half. 1. Alright, so now we've got 1 on the low and 1 1/4 on the high. So if 1 on the low is too lean, we can richen it, but at least that should help us start it up. Maybe it needs more fuel. Become a donor. Give fuel. We know the roving starts because we started it here. Okay, that's enough. That's enough mucking around. Let's put some fuel directly down the carb, the head. So what do we need? We need an Allen key and a plug wrench and a syringe. He said 20 drops, didn't he? 17, 18, 19. I think I did 19 drops last time. Oh, it's the bending over is the killer. Attempt 3, this time with fuel directly down the head. Okay. So it starts up when there's fuel in there. That means it's not getting fuel. Maybe we're too lean. So now they're both going to be 1 1/4. They're both on 1 1/4. Highs on 1 1/4, lows on 1 1/4. Alright, so the last time we went to start the Maverick Blackout MT, some fuel squirted out from somewhere around the primer bulb while I was priming, maybe from the plastic itself, and then just squirt out all over the tyre. And I was quite surprised to see that. So if it didn't come from the hose itself, then it came from the bulb. I've just removed the 4 screws because I want to measure the bulb. I want to see if it's a 19 or a 22mm at the base, so we can order the right one. Or do I go and buy a couple bulbs and a repair kit? Or do I go and buy a whole fake carb for $20? Or do I just go and pinch the carb from the 29cc Roven? Let's take it out and see if we can find where the problem is to help us make a decision. Another issue with Maverick is that the throttle cable that goes there is cut all the way into the foam and has even taken a huge chunk of the air filter out, unless that's a cutout, unless it's by design. I'm not sure. Is it a homemade cutout because the wire is not bent correctly, or did damage occur over time, or did the guy actually cut it out himself with the Dremel? We've managed to separate the primer bulb and its housing from the top of the carb. So now we can push the bulb out, which is good because then we can measure it to see if it's a 19mm or a 22. And the other thing we can do is we can check the integrity the bulb. We want to know, does it have any visible cracks or anything like that. Okay, we've taken the carb apart, we've given it a bit of a wash underwater, we've washed the top side and the bottom side. I've never done this before, but it looks fine to me. I really don't think these diaphragms are rock hard and not letting fuel to go through. I mean, the guy started it up in front of me. But in saying that, it could be, you know, maybe it was on its way out. Maybe that was the last start and that's it. And if we look closely here, well, let me zoom in a little bit. You can see it splitting there. And that's where the fuel would have squirted out from that crack. Alright, so I've been talking to a lot of people today, and the main consensus for advice is, if I want this to start, I'm going to have to buy a new carb, and I probably should just buy a clone carb, because Marlboro carbs are very expensive. So what is the problem with the carb? Well, you know, do you need a new fuel filter? Well, that's in the tank. Do you need a new diaphragm kit? Do you need a new primer bulb? Yeah, we know we need a new primer bulb because the primer bulb's cracked. It's cracked there and it's cracked on the top as well. And then I was thinking, what if I put my thumb over both cracks so it can't suck in air? It's only going to push fuel. And you know what? It worked. It's now full of fuel. So much fuel that if I prime too much, I start getting fuel all over my thumb. So now that I got fuel, I start doing my slow pulls. Just get some fuel in the engine. Gosh, I'm out of breath. Just cycled home from work in the cold. And then I put my finger over the stinger. Did a few more slow pulls. You can see some fuel around here as well. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to give it a yank and just see if it starts. I'm going to put the idle screw in all the way. And I'm going to richen the needles another full turn. And you know what? It fired up and the wheels actually started turning. So why did the wheels start turning? Is it because I got my idle in all the way? I thought idle wouldn't get to 8,000 RPM to activate the clutch. But maybe I'm wrong. So let's lower the idle. These are so rich. These needles are so rich. Maybe it's not getting enough fuel. Maybe the carb is clogged. But we'll take it outside and we can always hit the stop button if it tries to take off. Let's see what happens. All right, I've adjusted the idle screw. I've backed it right out. Let's see what happens. Okay, so if we look under the carb, on the hammer side of the carb, look at this. RUIKING. Rui King. Rui Starking. Who the hell knows what that is? Let's remove this top protector here and get this purge bulb out from the good carb and put it into the Maverick Blackout. This is the one that's got the cracked one. We're going to replace it so we can get this guy running. First test start with the new primer bulb from the Rover. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10. Choke on. Choke off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. getting too much air. It's running rich, but it's getting air. Now, what is going on here? Down in here, what is that? There's some parts in the bottom of the chassis just floating around. What the hell? Alright, I think I've worked out what this is. I think it sits underneath the fuel tank and provides a bit of cushioning for the tank. Because if you look at the holes, it lines up with those holes. And I bet you that's what's holding the fuel tank down. So this has come out. How has it come out? So the Maverick Blackout has got this little pad that was floating around on the chassis. Not 100% sure if this goes under the engine, but I think it actually goes under the fuel tank. It's been dislodged and it's hit something, I don't know, flywheel or a brake rod, I don't know. So it's damaged, but it's okay. But there needs to be two of them. So I found some foam in my spares box. Let's mark out two of these. They're already the same thickness, so that's good. And we'll just go and make two of these now. Alright, so we've marked it and we've cut it, but I'm not going to do the holes with the reamer just yet until I know exactly where this is going, so I can measure the holes properly. Alright, so that's the foam block that goes underneath the fuel tank. If we're going to make some new ones of these, how are we going to cut out the hole that's in there? Well, this is what I found on the beach. I don't know what it is, I haven't got a clue, but there you go. I can cut holes with this sharp bit of metal on the end just by pushing down and turning. I reckon it'll make a nice hole. Push down. So it's made the hole. If you look here, look at that. It's the right size. What are the chances that something that I needed I just found on the beach? I mean, you just can't make this stuff up, can you? There you go. We made two more. What did it cost? Absolutely nothing. So what I'm thinking is we'll start it up and then we'll get the water bottle, the water spray bottle there, and we'll use it to spray the engine, and if the engine slows down, then we know the water's getting in. Let's try that. 1, 2. Now it should start. So we sprayed the water on the hammer side of the carb and the engine cut out straight away. That's a good sign that we know we've got a carb issue, not an air leak. Alright, we're going to remove the 4 body pins, roll cage pins, 1, 2, and on the other side. And then I think there's going to be a screw underneath the chassis, and then we can remove the whole roll cage. Okay, so we took the roll cage off the Rampage so that we can either take the carb off or even take the whole engine off, and that way we can take the fuel tank out, give everything a good clean and do a good inspection of everything. Now, Dimitri told me that the fuel tank cap has got a little hole in it. We can see the hole is just there. And he said make the hole 3 times bigger so that you don't get a vapor lock condition in the tank, and then no fuel will go up. So what we'll do is we'll remove that guy. Then we're going to make that hole, he said, 3 times bigger. There we go, we've got a nice 1 mil hole now. Hey, what are you doing?
I'm playing Blackout Mt.
Ah, are you having fun?
Yeah?
I like your hat. Oh, is that Paw Patrol? Beautiful. We need fuel. Alright, time for some garage floor mathematics. Since we've got the fuel ready to go into the Maverick, and since we've got the Castrol 2T garden oil ready to go, I've just made up if I'm going to use 32 to 1 or if I'm going to use 40 to 1. So, in conclusion, the Maverick, since we're putting in 580 mils of oil, we'll need 15 to 18 mils of oil depending on our ratio. 15 to 18 mil. Whoa, that's quite aggressive, and it really hasn't moved that much, but it's getting there. Okay, so if your fuel bottle is leaking, just use some rags to hold it. There you go. You don't even need to tip it upside down, just give it a good shake. As long as there's a bit of air in the bottle, it will shake up in less than a minute. Okay, the Maverick has had the air filter removed. Now, we can see the Reassembly carb, and it looks very similar to the Walbro 997. I actually can't tell much of a difference in terms of layout. You know, you've got the high and the low and the idle and the hammer. You've got the choke, you've got the purge, the fuel down the bottom. Everything's looking the same. It's not exactly the same carb. There's some design differences with the support structure and so forth, but overall, I actually think the 997 might even fit. So let's just mark with the pen here that that's the purge. We'll just put a P for purge. And the other one is the fuel line, so we can put an F on there for fuel so that we don't get them mixed up. So we've just removed the Reassembly carburetor from the 30cc engine, and the little gasket has remained on the isolator block here. The gasket didn't stick to the carburetor, so we're just going to remove that now. Would like to keep the gasket intact if possible. Maybe we should even leave it on the isolator block. There's no real reason to remove it other than to do an inspection. So if it's stuck on there, I might just leave it. But I did want to get to these screws and remove the isolator block to see if it's warped. That's the whole reason I want to get to that block, because either the air leak is coming from the carb or it's coming from the isolator block if the screws on the engine itself aren't loose. So yeah, let's remove that and then we'll go and compare the carbs. So actually I thought that the Reassembly carb was different to the Walbro 997 carb. But if we put them side by side, we can see how similar they are. They're just mating at the moment. Let's separate them. Okay, so from this view, just imagine that the gasket is not there. They've got similar dimensions, similar colors. If we spin it around, we can just see throttle, nipples, and choke. Okay, throttle, nipples, and choke. WT997 has been stamped on the Walbro, whereas nothing has been stamped on the Reassembly. Okay, I've got the choke fully closed here, but we can open it. Here we can see how similar they are. All aspects are the same, really. The little indentations here, the little circles, are more pronounced on the Walbro. On the bottom, we can see Reassembly has been marked there. And look at that, it just looks exactly the same, doesn't it? I mean, what is the difference? The size of the holes in the hammer, the throttle arm, are a bit different, but everything here, the screw looks the same. The spring here, obviously more compressed because I've got the idle in all the way, but other than that, the screws themselves look similar. The adjustment screws look similar. The springs here look similar. The plastic looks very similar. The retainer metal, obviously that's a new bulb and that's the old one, so that's changed color a bit, but inside looking very similar. So overall, what I'm thinking is, if we've got a huge air leak from this Reassembly carburetor, I'm just probably going to buy either a clone Walbro 997 or a genuine Walbro 997. And I might even buy a gasket kit as well, just to see if we can repair the Reassembly using a 997 gasket kit. And if that doesn't work, we can always move the gaskets over to the Walbro, which is running rich. So, you know, if we buy one brand new carb and buy a gasket kit, we should end up with, out of all three, we should end up with 2 working carbs. Now, taking this isolator block out here, it's really hard. I've put an Allen key in there. I've pushed it. It doesn't want to move. It's really, really hard to... Look how hard that is. Does not want to move. We got it. We're just using the longer Allen key. Now, we're going to remove the box. Probably there's 4 screws underneath here, and then the whole thing will just lift up, and we unplug the servos. All that can stay in place. That's got nothing to do with it. And then we can make our lid. Just got to watch out for this here. That's a little bit low. That might interfere. So we can't make this very high. Maybe if we keep the lid less than 3 mil high, we'll be fine. Less than 3 mil over there. Should be fine. I didn't think so, but we're actually going to have to take the servo horn off to get this off. I thought that this clamp was just holding the servo down, but actually it's not. The whole servo is not mounted. So to make the new lid for the Maverick Blackout receiver battery box, we've got to do a couple things. I'm going to remove this on-off switch first of all, so these wires don't get in the way. Then I'm going to find a piece of plastic or acrylic that is a nice rectangle, this dimensions. Then we'll just place it on there, trace it out, cut it out, and go from there. Alright, so we've investigated the plastic collection. This one here is a little bit too thick for my liking. This one here is nice and thin, but look at that, it's just a little bit too small. The length is good, but look at that, just a little bit exposed. I mean, I can always put a sticker there. And then this one here, it's got a nice big cut halfway through it. Will that fit? Oh, look at that. That will fit perfect. And it's see-through and it's nice and thin. I think this is the winner. We have finished tracing it out. That's the shape it's got to be. Notice that where the holes are going to go for the screws, I've just gone a little bit fatter so that if I chip the material or make a mistake, I don't want to get too close to the hole. So maybe what we'll do the holes first while we've still got a lot of material, a lot of structural integrity, and then we'll file down the edges later and get as close as we can to a straight line. Alright, so we position our plate on top, get the marker, put a little dot there where we're going to drill it, and now we can get the drill and go for it. So we did our 1.5mm pilot hole. Now it's time to drill our 3mm hole. Alright, there you go. We've got the 4 screws in. We just had to fix up that corner using the high-speed rotary tool and a little grinding bit. So now we're going to trace out with the texter once again. We're going to trace out where we need to cut it to make it nice and tidy, and then we'll get the high-speed rotary tool with our special grinding bit and cut it out. Alright, there we go, final product. I've even given the edges a bit of a fine sand, and it fits well, it screws on great. It's a little bit transparent, so I guess we will be able to see receivers and things once they're in there. Let's throw something in there. Yeah, you can kind of see through it. There you go. How fun was that? Just took this little butterfly out of my Reassembly 997 carburetor. Reassembly? And what I noticed is this is bent. Now if that's bent, how's it going to stop air? Is that the reason why my engine is running away? Can't control the revs? I think it might be. Just put that little butterfly in the vise, and what we can see is, you can see how bent it is. It's so bent. What we're going to do is, it's going to push it. Push it. I'm going to push it. Well, we have to push it better than that. Push it real good. And I think that's it. Okay, we've got the alcohol in the container. And now the Reassembly. Right, we've got the carb kit, fake carb kit, and the Reassembly carb. A brand new metering. Now look how soft that is when you get a brand new one. It is super soft, like a hair on your head. Okay, you compare that to this old one, and it's just not as soft. It's pretty soft, but it's not as soft. I can see some little screens here that we probably need to remove. Alright, now there's some gunk in there. Oh, we got it. Give it a bit of a taparoo. And then, once that's on, they say the next thing you have to do is put something to seal around the edges if you're not using ethanol fuel. And then put the screw in. And now, if we have a look at this, we've got to set the height of that. Now if that's too high, you get too much fuel. But we didn't have a problem with too much fuel. We had a problem with too little fuel. So, that height there should be the same height as these little ridges here. That is way too high right now. So to fix that, because it's going to get too much fuel, what we would do is hold this down and then push here and bend it until it's the same height as these little ridges. And then push there. Okay, the hole goes on there, gasket, and then the pump. So you can't go wrong because there's a hole there. Then the flappy. Okay, time to put the throttle arm back on. Vroom. Vroom, 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 vroom. Ding, 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 ding. So the low has got this long section here and the cutout, whereas high is just completely threaded all the way. Low and the high should be 1 1/4 out. So that's all the way in. Half, 1 1/4, half, 1 1/4. And there we go. The Reassembly carb is all back together using fresh components. So I'm just going to change the old yellow purge bulb and put the brand new fresh clear one in.
Every box you need to be happy in life. The musical, so are you ruling that?
There we go, got the clear one on. How many carburetors am I going to install and then forget to put the fuel line on first? If you don't put the fuel line on first, look where the little nipple is, all the way down there. It's really hard to put it on. So I'm going to get a beautiful big 1450 milliamp 6.6 volt Life lithium pack. Okay, so we quickly set up the failsafe just by pushing the failsafe button and holding on just a little bit of brake. And we've tested it. We can test it again. Let's say we're going full throttle like that, and then the transmitter loses power. Bang, the brakes come on. Turn the transmitter back on, brakes come off. So failsafe is working. We've got all the fuel lines connected up. We've got the brakes connected. We've got the throttle linkage connected. Let's test it. Does it move? Yes. How's the hammer? It's reaching full throttle. It's not overextending. It's not stressed. Do brakes work? I hit the brakes. It's trying to brake, but it's not really doing much. Corporate nitro, first fire up of the Maverick Blackout since we rebuilt the carburetor. I think for a special occasion like this, we probably have to put a suit on. Now this is interesting. There was almost 600 mils of fuel in here 3 months ago when I filled up. Now there's only 400 mils of fuel. Where's that other 180 mils of fuel? Where did it go? Right, so it's really funny. After the rebuild of the carb, the MT is behaving exactly like the Baja. I have to set it to half a turn out just to get it to start. So it's running rich. Now we remember when we rebuilt the carb, the Walbro carb in the Baja, in the Roven, that the metering lever height was very important. It's got to be set correctly. It's got to be low, level with those little ridges on either side. Alright, now we are inside the carb again, and what we're talking about is this metering lever height. If that's set too high, see how high it is? It's really high. That's the reason why we're too rich. We have to lower that little lever just by bending it down. So we need to get this a bit lower, okay? Because what's happening is it's getting pushed down and the pin here is coming up too much fuel. So what we'll do is we'll hold the pin down and we'll just bend that. Okay, so now it's lower. How low is it? It's got to be level with that little ridge there and there, those two ridges. And that's about just a little bit rich. And now it's looking really good. Let's go and put the rear clip back on, put the drive shaft in, put these fuel tank supports in, put the rear bumper on. Let's get it all back together. And then I'm thinking we'll find a big socket set, remove these massive 24 hexes, and that way we can work on the carb and tune the engine without worrying about these big tires spinning and causing vibration and falling off the supports. All right, it's all back together. It went pretty smoothly. Only one screw was missing, which I'm pretty sure it was missing when I got the truck. If only we could tune it. I would love to be able to run this four-wheel drive truck in the park. Four-wheel drive for me would be so much better than a rear-wheel drive Baja that just spins out in the grass. I'm even thinking about buying a genuine Walbro carb, brand new. Just spend the $50, call it a day. But then again, I don't even know if that's going to fix the issue. Could be gasket related. So, you know, maybe we just buy all new gaskets first, or maybe all new gaskets and a new carb and a new isolator block. You know, it could be so many things. But we might try and tune it again tomorrow, see how we go. So this fuel tank, it doesn't have a very pretty opening here. And I don't want to compromise our new gasket. I don't want fuel coming out. I don't want it making a mess all over the truck. Just going to get a bit of 240, clean that up a little bit. After we do this, we're going to have to rinse the tank out. So now we finished sanding it, and then we rinsed it out, and we're just going to leave it overnight to dry now. So we want to get this fuel tank out so we can put the new piece of foam that I made underneath it. So to do that, we're going to start with the 4 screws underneath, and then we're going to work out if we can get to some other screws on top. Stop the, because that metal brace there is stopping me from getting the fuel tank out. And then we remove these 4 screws here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That way we release the metal from the plastic fuel tank retainer. Alright, so now you've removed the 4 screws here, which releases the fuel tank roll cage, and you've released the 4 screws on the bottom, but you still can't get the fuel tank out. So it looks like you're going to have to remove these 4 lock nuts here, which means you need to put a wrench in there to hold them in position, and then remove the 4 screws at the back there. Then you can remove these plates out, and then the whole fuel tank can come out. Now, if we remove this bumper, it's going to be easier to get to those 4 screws there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can remove the bumper. As always, crack the screws by hand and then use your power tools if you want to get the screw out faster. Yeah. And then just when you think the fuel tank's about to come out because you've removed the brace, you think, oh yeah, I'm just going to lift up the fuel tank now. No, you can't, because check this, the drive shaft goes through the fuel tank. So the only way to get the fuel tank out is to remove the whole rear clip from the back of the car so you can release the drive shaft so you can get the fuel tank out. Unbelievable. Who designs this stuff? Wow. And then once you take that whole rear clip off the back of the truck, then you can get your drive shaft out. That's a rusty drive shaft. And you can get your fuel tank out complete with country grass. And a little bit of fuel still in there as well. Give the fuel tank a clean, we'll give this chassis a clean, and then we will put our foam strips underneath this fuel tank where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be 2 blocks of foam just to elevate that fuel tank a little bit and give it a bit of cushioning. Alright, so we've been going for quite a few months now to try and work out why the Maverick is running lean, and pulled the carb apart yesterday. We saw the butterfly was bent. That could be one reason why it's running lean. But then today, I took the fuel tank out because I wanted to mount the little foam blocks underneath it. And what I've noticed is the fuel line, the pickup has detached from the hose. So it's rattling around in there. The fuel pickup is not connected to the hose. That means the hose, if it's not completely submerged, it's not going to pick up fuel. Also, there's no fuel filter because whatever's in the tank will go straight into the hose. Now, this is really annoying because I can see the fuel filter hanging around here, but I can't get it to go into this side so I can pull it out. The fuel filter is stuck in here. So how did the fuel filter get in there? Well, it must have come in through there. That's the only way you can get into the fuel tank. Unless they put the hoses in before joining the 2-piece fuel tank permanently together at the factory, which I doubt very much. I reckon this is the access hole. So we need to break the seal there because that's been glued or siliconed in. Get that out, and then we can get the old fuel filter out, and it's a good chance to replace the fuel filter. Just really struggling to get this little thingamajig out. Put the string through there. Ah. Okay, well, we made a mess of it, but we got it out. And if you're wondering if you need a fuel filter, just have a look at the fuel that I poured out of this tank. It is totally putrid. There are lots of organic pieces of material in there. Oh yeah, and a zip tie as well, because the fuel filter fell off. So that is why you need a fuel filter. Did you think I was going to throw that fuel in the bin? No, I'm filtering it. Put some toilet paper in the funnel. Put the funnel in the funnel. I'm going to capture the fuel. It's going to be clean. Toilet paper, filtering. So the fuel tank has been washed in hot soapy water. We're going to leave that to dry overnight. We gave the lid a bit of a wash as well. So do I want to use this old black fuel line and I can't see fuel and I can't see bubbles and I can't get it through my grommet? Or do I want to use the new one? Clear, can see fuel, can see bubbles, goes through the grommet much easier. Yeah, I think we'll use the yellow one. And we've put a little zip tie here to indicate which one the fuel comes out of. I've also written it on there, fuel, and I've written purge on the other one. Also, the purge is a much shorter line. So it's time to put these braces on, get our foam pads ready, start doing it up. These are not ordinary 24mm wheel hexes because they're so far away. I can't use my normal tools. I can't use my spanners. These are deep dish rims. So I had to buy a 64-piece socket set. This is SAE and metric so that I can take off a deep dish 24mm hex hub. Corporate Nitro and Junior Corporate Nitro cleaning wheels on the Maverick Blackout MT. Alright, so the new Walbro 997 carburetor has arrived for the Maverick Blackout, and as it turns out, it does come with a couple gaskets for either side of the carburetor, one for the air filter side and one for the isolator block side. The isolator block is there, and it too comes with the gasket required for the engine side. So the correct order is, you got your engine first, then you've got the squarish rectangle shape, then you've got the huge side that goes on there. Now remember, the hole is for the pressure pulses that pumps in fuel. So the hole is going to be at the bottom. There's holes on both sides, but the gasket only has the hole on one side. So you've got to make sure the hole is on the bottom. And then obviously on this side, you got the other gasket. Make sure the holes line up. Then you got the carb, and that hole is putting pressure in the carb there. And those pulses of pressure, that's what feeds the fuel in. Then you got the last gasket on this side where your air filter goes. And that's it. Let's put it all together. Let's take the old air filter off, and then let's start taking off all these bolts here. Get the air filter case off, get the carburetor off, get ready to put the new carb on and new isolator block. I just had a blonde moment with the Maverick. We've gone to pull the carb out of the line, and as I yanked the carb out, I accidentally pulled the whole yellow fuel line out of the fuel tank. And I thought, well, wait a sec, if I've pulled the fuel line out, that means the purge line should be in there. But the purge line wouldn't come out because there was something attached to it. OMG moment, the fuel filter was attached to what I had labelled the purge line, but wasn't the purge line. So this is a good opportunity to remove the old fuel filter and then just go and stick a brand new one in, since I've got one there. And that's better than leaving this in the tank. So I'm glad it came out all in one go. Let's go and attach the new fuel filter to the correct fuel line and set it all up again with the near new fuel grommet. Alright, we've got the new carb, the new isolator block, all new screws. I'm reusing 2 washers because I need smaller ones, not the big ones that come with it. All new fuel lines, all new grommet, new fuel filter, all ready to go in now. The isolator block goes the big flat side to the engine with a gasket, and you've got to make sure that the little pressure port for pressure pulses for pumping fuel gets to the hole. Maybe a little bit of thread locker. We can put a bit of thread locker on there. Rod, line up the throttle rod. Okay, where does that go? That one goes in there. Now the base has still got the gasket on there. Let's take this old gasket off and put a new one on. Aha! So if we go that way, the rod is nowhere near the air filter. He had it on the wrong way, and that's why he's cut the plastic. And it's the wrong air filter. Should be the shorty style air filter.
Push it good. Push it. Push it real good.
So that goes on one way only. Goes on like that. Now that's a massive purge line, isn't it? And our fuel line, is it getting stressed? Wow, fuel line is short, isn't it? Now we've got the fuel line touching the baffle, which is going to get really hot. And that's going to get hot too. We might have to protect this. Might have to put some foam around there and there just to keep that fuel line off.
Shake it, baby.
Alright, first time using this brand new Marlboro carb. We need fuel to enter the carburetor. That's it, it's come in, and that means we want just fuel going back to the fuel tank, no air. Looking good, no air. Alright, so we're going to leave everything on the stock settings. This is how the carburetor arrived. This is the stock, factory, idle, high and low. And now we're just going to see if we can do some slow pulls and hear a pop while the choke is down. I think that was a pop, so we'll turn the choke off now. And now we'll see if it fires up.
Come on, boys! Get excited! It's showtime!
Alright, the Maverick Blackout is now in the park. We are on flat grass to do the first test, the first driving test. And we do have a skate park over there in case we want to do some jumps. But I'm not that lucky, so it's been a bit of bad luck this one. But now we've got the new carb, it might be good. So just to do a quick recap, we bought the car, it was running lean, we serviced the carb with all new parts, it ran strange and couldn't stay idling. We bought a brand new Walbro carb, 997, and it starts up easily now. So let's see what happens.
Papa, stop making this loud noise.
Okay, this one's not going to be loud.
Let's make a race with the cars. Let's do a race. Who's going to be the fastest to the finish line? Papa?
Yeah.
Can we make a race with both monster trucks coming to the end of the race? We're going to have a race with the monster truck. Is that a good idea? Have a race with the monster truck?
We come stand over here. Wow, that is so much different to the Baja. That is so much more controllable than the Baja. You can feel the weight and the grip. And the brakes are good. Look at the brakes. question is, will it idle? Got a garage full of nitro. Yeah. Yeah. That was it. This one. So there's Redcat Rampage, but then there's Himoto, I think, actually make it. Yeah. XL Warrior or something. I think it's quite old. But anyway, this is the Hpi Maverick branded version of the same car. Yeah, I think I'm there. And it's a 30cc, not the 32. Yeah. So it's 2 volts. Now, the main problem with this body is that it hits the exhaust. The body's all going to melt because the exhaust doesn't have any clear passage out. Covered in dust. nitro, we are out of fuel. We're out of fuel.